In today's video, you will hear some stories from people about why they quit MLM. If you like my content, do like and subscribe. I am creating content to try to raise funds for my dad's treatment. So if you want to support his ongoing battle, the GoFundMe link is in the description section below. Thank you so much for being here. And now let's get started. Story 1. The MLM model I got involved with was quite unusual. They had an actual office, daily meetings for the salespeople, and other elements that made the business seem more legitimate. They even had an interview process that was convincing enough for me to let my guard down. Looking back, I should have never taken the job. My role involved aggressively pitching pillows to people at Costco. Oddly enough, I was good at it. They told me I would earn a 20% commission on everything I sold, so I expected to make decent money. After 2 weeks of full-time work, I got my first paycheck on these $600, since I had to keep an inventory of my stand at Costco. It was easy for me to calculate what they actually owed me, and it was a lot more than $600. That was the final straw. I quit on the spot and quickly found another job. Story 2. Over the years, I've worked in all kinds of jobs, mostly to stay busy between contracts or creative projects. Many of these gigs were short-lived, but only once did I quit after just 1 day. The job description made it sound like I'd be a conversational clothing model at some high-end party. The pay was great, and I thought it would be a fun way to spend a few evenings. There was just one catch. I had to attend a rehearsal about a week before the event. Seemed reasonable, so I showed up. The moment I walked in, I knew something was off. The first red flag was the clothes, or rather, the fabrics hanging on a rack. They looked more like oversized, brightly colored sheets with neck holes cut into them. As odd as they were, the other models were even stranger. There was an incredibly diverse group in terms of age, gender, and size, all of whom seemed to be buzzing about some amazing business opportunity, which quickly started to sound a lot like a pyramid scheme. And that's exactly what it was. Sure, there was some base pay, but it came with strings attached. I'd have to sell 100 tickets to these events, where I'd be modeling. If I didn't meet the quota, the cost of the unsold tickets would be docked from my pay. But it got worse. They encouraged me to buy more tickets myself, to sell at a higher profit, and even recruit others to sell tickets for me. Essentially, I was being invited into a multi-level marketing nightmare. By this point, I was already contemplating a quick exit. But the final straw came when the musical guest arrived. She was a woman with a large handmade drum, which caught the attention of one of the kids in attendance. Oh, did I mention? Some of the models brought their kids. The musician seemed thrilled by the attention, and proudly announced, "I'm a rhythmic poet." "Do you know what that is?" The little girl blinked and replied, "Something you made up." The musician's expression was priceless. But after taking stock of the eccentric crowd, the bizarre clothes, the shady business model, and the impromptu drum circle, I knew I had to leave. On the plus side, I can now say I once turned down a modeling gig. Story 3. Fresh out of university and eager to start my career, I naively showed up in a suit for what I thought was a marketing position with a nationally recognized company. I had done minimal research, just enough to know they had a headquarters and were publicly traded. I walked in expecting something out of Mad Men, but reality quickly shattered that illusion. Instead of a bustling corporate office, I was greeted by one guy in a suit running the whole operation, a lone secretary, and a big open room full of people who looked like they'd just walked out of a Jake from State Farm commercial. There was also a giant dream board on the wall, plastered with photos of luxury cars, yachts, and vacation destinations. Something felt off, but I was broke and jobless, so I pressed on. The guy in the suit wasted no time offering me the job on the spot, promising $800 plus commissions during the first 2 weeks of training, with the opportunity to switch to full commission after that. Desperate, I accepted, figuring it was worth a try. The next 2 weeks were a surreal blur of daily chants about top earners and what dream are you working to pay for. It was all about hyping up the team before they headed out to sell whatever product they were pushing that week at the time. It was car wax. Every day, the office would celebrate the high rollers, but they never mentioned the bottom-tier workers, who earned a grand total of $10 in commission after 3 days straight. It didn't take long for me to realize that this marketing job was nothing more than a glorified door-to-door sales gig, built on false promises of success. I didn't stick around long enough to find out what dreams that dream board was really paying for. Story 4. When I was 17 and a bit naive, I got sucked into Primerica for a short time. Before I realized it was a scam, I was out $50 for their so-called processing fee. The way it happened was pretty random. I worked at Publix, and I was helping this woman take her groceries to her car. She told me I'd be a perfect fit for her company, and handed me her business card. When you're a teenager, validation is everything, so it was easy to fall for it when someone told me I was special. The interview raised a few red flags right away. They never actually explained what the product was. Instead, the focus was entirely on getting me to recruit friends and family to join the company. I ignored my gut feeling at the time, and I'm still annoyed at myself for getting pressured into paying that sign-up fee. The real kicker came at the first meeting. That's when every single alarm went off. The whole thing felt like a religious cult gathering, with people hyping each other up and talking about dreams and financial freedom. That was it for me. Never went back after that. At least I walked away with one valuable lesson. Now I can spot an MLM from a mile away. Story 5. This isn't about me, but rather my wife. We've been married for 7 years now, and she's incredibly smart and hardworking. Unfortunately, she got sucked into the MLM world at a young age. And during our marriage, she went through a few of them. It works, some Avon deal, a diet pills MLM, and finally, Sensi. There might be more, but those are the ones I remember. I had no idea what an MLM was until she got into Sensi. Around the time she was starting to build a downline, I had just discovered Reddit, and that's when it hit me she was in a pyramid scheme. I didn't want to be confrontational, so I subtly asked her what she was making from it. She was putting at least 2 hours into basic Facebook videos and making 1 or 2 trips to people's houses with her scent kit. When I pushed a little, she finally admitted, most of what I make goes right back into my business. At that point, we probably had 20 wax warmers scattered around the house. I started referring to her business as a pyramid scheme, but I tried to be as empathetic as possible. Eventually, she got too busy with her real job to keep up with the MLM. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, I had completely forgotten about the whole thing. Then, I overheard my younger sister doing a Sensi video, sniffing and describing waxes. I made a comment to my wife about how my sister was wasting time and money she probably didn't have. To my surprise, my wife casually mentioned she was thinking about getting back into it. That's when I told her if she did, I'd need to see all her purchases and how much she was actually profiting. She got a bit defensive and said, "You don't just make a big commission on a sale. That's not where the money is." I asked her to explain, and she started talking about how the main source of income comes from your downline. So, I sketched out what she was describing and asked if it looked right. She agreed. Then I asked her to draw what a pyramid scheme would look like. She held the pen for a moment, then set it down and admitted I was right. I haven't yet shown her the Anti-MLM subreddit to spare her from seeing how cringy her Facebook posts were. But maybe one day I will. Story 6. This isn't about leaving an MLM, but about cutting off people who are pressuring me to join one. My father is terminally ill, his health is unpredictable, and just last week, he went into cardiac arrest. As soon as this became known to people, I started getting messages from friends asking if we could talk. People in MLMs have scripts for recruiting, and it's always the same pattern. They start with a friendly greeting, express sympathy, share a relatable story, and then drop the sales pitch, usually about meeting up. To people I highly respected, people I considered close friends, pulled this exact move on me while I was literally leaving the ICU. They tried to pitch me some supplement that supposedly cures cancer. Seriously, their sympathies felt completely hollow. I was just another recruit or dollar sign to them, another tool to help them climb their sales ladder. It felt trashy and incredibly disrespectful. Once I get through this whole medical ordeal with my family, I'm cutting them out of my life for good. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention something from my early working years. I once interviewed for a company that turned out to be some kind of MLM. The way they treated new hires or applicants was just awful. They had me shadow a senior sales executive, but made me sign a waiver saying I wouldn't get paid because it was a test to see if I was a good fit. They drove me 30 to 40 minutes out of town, and my shadowing was really just standing in front of grocery stores for 7 hours, trying to get people to sign up for some sports products. No training, no guidance. I was just free labor for the day. At the end of that long, unpaid day, they offered me the job but treated me harshly when I said I'd need at least a week or two notice to start because, professionalism. Huge red flag. I ended up just showing on my first day. From what I've heard, that no pay waiver is unfortunately legal. Story 7. When I went in for the training day, I quickly realized that one of the requirements to get paid was providing the names of 10 of my friends or family members and trying to sell to them. That was it for me. I took the branch president aside into another room, gave him a piece of my mind, and walked right out of the building. These places prey on the young, poor, and uneducated. I was 18, desperate for any job I could find, and responded to an ad for a sales associate. I even showed up in a suit, thinking it was a legitimate position. They hired me on the spot. At orientation, the fast-talking guy running the show, he had that constant, fake smile like the used car salesman from Family Guy. Spent most of the time hyping up their company bonuses, rather than explaining what the job really entailed. Now, I can spot these scams from a mile away. Luckily, it only cost me 2 days of my time and some gas, rather than actual money. I tried warning a few of the others before I left, but I'm sure most of them had to learn the hard way. Story 8. Sensi was tough because of the constant pressure to recruit and the strict requirements to stay active. To maintain your status, you needed to earn 125 PRV personal revenue volume in 1 month out of every 3. But 125 PRV wasn't equivalent to $125 in sales. It was closer to $250. That $250 is also the amount required for a hostess to earn rewards during a party. For that, she'd get 1 half-priced item and $25 in free product. But of course, there was no way to combine items to land exactly at $25. So the hostess often had to pay the difference. Towards the end of my time with Sensi, I was just trying to hit the bare minimum to keep my discount, so I aimed for 1 party every 3rd month. Unfortunately, I live in a small town with a super hun, one of those early recruits who managed to create a massive downline of lesser super huns. The competition was fierce, and at one point, people were even reporting each other to corporate for breaking the rules, like setting up booths at flea markets or selling in public Facebook groups. Friendships ended if someone accidentally signed up under the wrong hun, and there was even a black market for discontinued scents, like wild black cherry. Then came the infamous Ups truck heist in 2016, which caused chaos and ruined relationships. By that point, I had resigned myself to lazily posting on Facebook whenever I was placing an order and hoping for the best. But I often came up short because no one wanted to host a party, and even fewer wanted to attend one. So, I'd scramble to combine people's orders just to hit the $250 mark, which meant buying random things like light bulbs for $2.50 or a wax bar for $6 to make up the difference. And if you didn't claim your hostess rewards, you'd get charged $6. So I'd have to buy something half price and claim my free rewards. The cheapest half-price item, a light bulb for $1.50. My free reward would usually be something like a plug-in warmer for $24 and another light bulb. In the end, after all the embarrassing begging, I'd finally hit 125 PRV, which would be multiplied by a 1.2 peg rate for reasons I still don't fully understand, and I'd earn a 25% commission. That meant I was pulling in a whopping $37.50 a month, minus the $3 for my 2 light bulbs. Story 9. My ex-roommate's MLM adventures. My ex-roommate was a very gullible person, willing to believe just about anything someone told her. So, when a Facebook friend introduced her to It Works, she was thrilled. And how could she resist? By joining, she would get 10% off her purchases, free items, and the opportunity to start her own business. Naturally, she signed up, and the buying frenzy began. Now, it's worth noting that my roommate had some serious allergies, particularly to things like menthol and similar ingredients, especially on her skin. She had to be extremely careful about the lotions, soaps, and skincare products she used. So, when she asked her Facebook friend about the tummy fat-burning wraps they were selling, she made sure to check if they were safe for her. Her friend assured her the wraps were perfectly fine for her skin. Feeling confident, my roommate bought $90 worth of wraps and immediately began using them, encouraging everyone around her to do the same. She applied them to her bare stomach and thighs, then laid down in bed, setting an alarm for when to take them off. Not long after, I heard her yelling from the bedroom. I ran in and found her in agony. The wraps had severely burned her skin. Everywhere the wraps had touched was red, blistering, and burning hot to the touch. Her skin was peeling, and she couldn't stand the pain. Her friend brushed it off, saying some tingling and mild discomfort was normal, as that's how the wraps supposedly worked. My roommate, trusting her advice, kept the wraps on until she couldn't bear the pain any longer. Turns out, the wraps were full of menthol and other ingredients she was allergic to. But even after that painful experience, it didn't end there. Her Facebook friend recommended using It Works eucalyptus-scented essential oils to help heal the burns failing. To mention that the oil also contained menthol and was known to be an irritant for pets. Veterinarians even warn that eucalyptus can harm cats and dogs. Despite my roommate's initial doubts, she argued that because it was natural, it had to be safe. She was convinced the oils were a miracle cure, and if I bought them too, I'd see how great they were. She also saw it as a chance to make money on the side. After weeks of diffusing the oil, she started experiencing mild nose and throat irritation, which she blamed on a cold, but her poor cat was suffering much worse. The kitty, trapped in the room with the oils, began losing patches of fur and vomiting frequently. We had to ban the oils from the house because the scent was so strong it felt like we were living inside a Macy's perfume department. But even after It Works proved to be a disaster, her MLM journey wasn't over. It Works was a scam, she finally admitted. But Beachbody is where it's at. And so, she signed up for another MLM, this time selling protein shake powders. She started trying to sell these strange-looking protein shakes, while drinking up to 6 of them a day, despite hating the taste. She was determined to lose weight, and believed this would finally be the solution. But without any exercise or balanced nutrition, the shakes weren't helping. My roommate, a larger woman, wanted to lose weight, and I sympathized with her struggle, because I'm in the same boat. But all those protein shakes and no working out did the opposite of what she hoped. Over the next 4 months, she spent all of her rent and utilities money on these powders, leaving me to cover her financial obligations with the promise of being paid back. By month 5, she angrily declared she had gained weight instead of losing it. She was broke, people were making fun of her, and no one was responding to her posts online. "What kind of job is this?" she asked in frustration. Finally, she quit the MLMs altogether. Slowly, she started to feel better physically, and her cat made a full recovery. We never heard about oils, shakes, lip gloss, or wraps again. But even to this day, she refuses to call them scams or MLMs. She's convinced that she just wasn't good at selling. Story 10. My experience with Amway. Technically, I haven't fully left Amway, because I still maintain the yearly $60 subscription. But the reason I keep it is because my parents and aunt actually like the Amway beauty products. I give them free shipping and a discount when they order. The way I see it, they're going to buy the products from someone, so it might as well be from me, where they can save money with the discount and free shipping. Plus, I get back around $30 every time they buy something, so it ends up paying for itself. I can see how people might make money with Amway. In my team, for example, you could be trained as a makeup artist, and then you'd book yourself for weddings or parties. You'd make a flat fee for the event, plus the commission on any products you sold. People could make decent money that way. I remember doing one beauty party and making $600 in a month just from commissions. For a college student making $7.25 an hour part-time, that was really appealing. However, I eventually realized that it wasn't for me. I'm not the type of person who can just strike up conversations with strangers or be energetic and social all the time. Like many others in my team, I'm definitely not a natural salesman. Even at that beauty party, the only reason it worked was because I got my mum to invite her friends, and the team leader came over to demo the products for me. On my own, the best I ever did was sell 2 cases of energy drinks, and that was a one-time thing. That being said, my experience wasn't entirely bad. I really lucked out with my team. They prioritized mentoring and personal growth over just making sales. At the time, I wasn't in a great place mentally, and being surrounded once a week by a group of people who had their lives together better than I did was helpful. They taught me practical life skills, like how to make and stick to a budget, the importance of savings, 401 kiloseconds, and making sound investments. Honestly, I don't know where I'd be without their guidance during my early 20s. Now, I know it might sound like I'm promoting Amway or MLMs, but let me be clear, don't join one. Around 99% of people lose money every month they're part of an MLM. The pressure to buy products, CDs, books, and even your own inventory to make it to the next tier is intense. I was extremely lucky with my team, and I recognize that. I have no plans to ever go back, and I firmly believe MLMs should be outlawed. Most of them, including Amway as a whole, are predatory. The benefits I got from my team, like personal development and financial advice, can easily be found in the right community, or even by joining us. If someone is trying to get you to join an MLM, don't give them an excuse. They're trained to counter every excuse. Just say no, and if they push, say I don't want to go. If they continue insisting, block them, ignore them, or report them, especially if there's someone you know through work. Many companies have policies against this type of solicitation. Story 11. A few years back, I had a neighbor I was good friends with who wanted to lose weight. She told me she'd found a free body boot camp, and since I was also looking to shed a few pounds, I figured I'd go along to try it out. When we got there, I noticed the workout space was right next to an Herbalife nutrition spot. My friend ordered a shake and some weird antacid-looking tablets called Liftoff or something like that. I tried to shake it, Was okay, nothing special. She kept pushing me to try the lift-off tablets, swearing they gave her an insane energy boost. She was literally bouncing all over the place, acting super hyper. Meanwhile, I felt no different after trying one, or the second one she insisted I take. At this point, I was thinking, I came here for a workout, not for weird supplements. I asked her what this was all about, and that's when she introduced me to this stereotypical gym brother, owner of the place. He was covered in plastic surgery, all nipped and tucked, and kept telling me I could get amazing results like hers, if I just made the right choice. The whole thing felt off, like they were more interested in selling me something than helping me work out. My friend, however, went all in on it. She was drinking the shakes, taking the lift off, and getting more and more into the whole Herbalife lifestyle. It got to the point where her obsession with it started to concern me, and we began drifting apart. I haven't seen her in almost 2 years now. Story 12. I wasn't involved much beyond the introductory group interview, but I'll share what happened anyway. I was really young at Inand, just leaving the retail world, looking for a different type of part-time job while finishing college. Of course, these MLM listings are everywhere, especially on job search sites, which is how I ended up at one. I showed up at a Primerica office, not knowing what it was, since the job was listed on Indeed as an entry-level sales and marketing opportunity. I sat through a strange PowerPoint presentation with clearly inflated numbers and cheesy stock photos. I was bored out of my mind, but wasn't assertive enough at the time to just get up and leave. After that, they took me into a private meeting room with a woman who seemed way too eager. She was super smiley, but her eyes looked dead. Like her smile said, "Join our team," while her eyes were screaming, "Run." She had crooked, yellowish teeth, and her cheap suit seemed totally out of place for someone who claimed to be a millionaire. The office itself was bare, just a desk, a purse, and a laptop. For someone telling me she was a millionaire, it was hard to buy that story in that environment. She then pushed me to spend $125 right then and there to buy some training and a license. I told her I'd think about it. She kept insisting I keep my existing job because the profits here come slowly and there are upfront costs. At this point, the red flags were flying. I sat there for as long as I could, then pretty much ran out the clock, got to my car, and sped home. They kept calling me after that, so I blocked them. I should have walked out earlier, but at the time, I was too meek to make a quick escape. Story 13. I almost got involved in one. I was browsing Craigslist for jobs and came across an ad saying they were looking for people to sell things. No experience required. I replied to the ad, and they responded quickly, setting up an appointment for me. When I arrived, I was surprised by how they were taking anyone, even those without any customer service experience. They had people filling out applications and told me about the job. We'd be selling electronics, including a calculator. They mentioned we'd only make money off of what we sold, getting a percentage of the sales. They also mentioned we'd have to call others and try to recruit them to join the team. That's when I realized I'd be driving around in my car selling stuff. But they wouldn't reimburse gas or any related expenses. The worst part, they said we'd have to wear a nice suit, and of course, we'd have to pay for that ourselves. At that point, I knew I wasn't interested. I worked to make money, not to spend money. They didn't pressure me at all to join though. They just said, if I wasn't interested, they could rip up my application right then and there, and there was no point in filling it out. I told them I wasn't interested, and that was that. Story 14. Back when I was fresh out of high school and looking for a job, I came across a Craigslist posting in my area that promised, make $40,000 a year with no training, your own office. Naturally, I responded to it. Turns out, it was an MLM scheme about selling perfume because scents can't be trademarked. I should have known something was off. when about 25 out of the 30 people at the orientation didn't show up the next day. Our first task was to go to parking lots and try to sell overpriced 3-minute perfume samples for less than the usual price. The approach, literally, "Hey, come to my trunk and let me spray you with this." I decided to quit when I wasn't making any money, was forced to sit through the smell of Black & Milds in some guy's car, and had to steal cheese sticks from 7 to 11 for lunch. I showed up a bit late one day, only to find that everyone had already left to another office for some team-building activity video about how the top seller would get a trip to Vegas or something. I opened every door I could find, grabbed all the sample bottles they had given us, and walked out. Additional side story: a few years later, I ran into the guy who was running the business on the bus as I was heading to campus. He asked me for $1. One of the things he drilled into newbies was to never get discouraged by the first no. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "No, and that's all I'm going to give you. Be discouraged." He recognized me, quickly left the bus, and didn't ask anyone else. Story 15. I decided I wanted to become a financial planner, so I looked into companies like Lynch and Schwab, but a buddy of mine told me about a mutual friend who was killing it in the industry. I reached out to that friend, and he invited me over to talk about World Financial Group, WFG. He showed me their compensation plans, and after comparing them to what the other companies were offering, it all sounded great, so I joined. I was a top producer and won awards for it. I had a solid network of wealthy friends, which helped me set up pension plans for small business owners, doctors, and dentists. During this time, I made really good money, but the problem came when I hit a ceiling on how much commission I could earn, even after becoming a branch office manager. To advance further, I had to recruit more people. At first I resisted, because I didn't want to recruit people who I didn't believe would succeed. They kept pushing me harder to recruit, and I realized that no matter how good I was as an advisor to my clients, I couldn't make more money unless I kept recruiting. The turnover rate was high, and the pressure to constantly recruit was relentless. Eventually, I decided to leave because I didn't want to recruit people who wouldn't succeed. I don't share the same negative view of these companies that many others do, likely because I made over $100,000 for a few years without building a huge network. Also, the products I sold were the same cost as if people invested through any other broker, so I wasn't selling overpriced items like pills, potions, or cosmetics. But I did see that I was a rare case, a unicorn, and that most people get into these companies with big dreams, but never make real money. From my perspective, most people are sold a dream of independence and free time, but what I saw was that the people who make real money work insanely hard. They're putting in long hours, usually in the evenings, away from their families, because that's when they can have people attend opportunity meetings. Since most people still have other jobs, there's no magic to it, to have to be willing to annoy people, but somehow maintain enough credibility to get them to buy from you. It's a huge juggling act. And because the reputation of your company and industry is tainted by scammers and unqualified people, you end up looking bad, even if you're doing things the right way. That is all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe, and let me know below of your thoughts. If you want to help in my dad's fundraiser, I would truly appreciate it. Hope you have an absolutely amazing day. You can also check my other videos on screen.